Hey guys, it's Lindsay, and I thought today we would do a face-to-face planner chat. I recently just uploaded a video called my 2025 planner situationship, which is basically my way of saying that I've got commitment issues when it comes to planners because I like to try new things. The whole organizing my life on paper and figuring out how to get my system to fit into a new form factor is probably the hobby portion of planning for me, and if I try to force myself to fit in something throughout the entire year, I kind of lose a little bit of the fun of this, and then it just becomes a job. So I do want to talk through some second thoughts that I'm already having. I know I just posted that video, but it wouldn't be Lindsey Scribbles YouTube channel if I didn't at least have multiple 2025 lineups. And for the most part, I think I selected the right things. I'm still waiting on some stuff to show up. So if you didn't catch that video, let me just grab this here. If you didn't catch my 2025 situationship video, I said that I was going to be using the Hobonichi Weeks for planning, a Hobonichi Weeks regular for work, and then the Sterling Ink Common Planner for journaling and memory keeping. And to be honest, the Common Planner is really the only thing I want to commit to for next year. I would love to only have memory keeping and journaling in one space, and I love the A5 size and a bound book that sits on my shelf really neatly, and I'm really excited to try the Common Planner out. I guess I've been using the Hobonichi Cousin for 6 years. This is my 6th year using it, and so there is an impulse to use it for 4 more years so that I have just 10 of them sitting on my shelf. But there's a few things that I'm just kind of wanting to try a little bit different. I mentioned in that video that committing to daily, a full A5 day per page is feeling a little bit overwhelming for me right now. So I think just being able to journal however I want in the back is going to feel really freeing. I'm kind of over the colored pages in the Hobonichi Cousin, which is funny to say because that's usually my favorite part. It's just super quirky. But this year in particular, I've had a lot of photos that I've been printing, and typically the photos clash with whatever the grid color is in the Hobonichi. So I've just been ready for something a little bit more blank, kind of a blank canvas for me to fill out as I want. So I'm really excited about that. I think it arrives tomorrow, so if that gets here on time, I'll do a little unboxing clip. But the thing that I'm second guessing is actually my Hobonichi Weeks. So I don't think that this is much of a surprise because 2024, the Hobonichi Weeks and I just have not been getting on how we used to. It is a planner that I often refer to as my emotional support planner. It has gotten me through really tough years. 2021 was the year that I used the Hobonichi Weeks as my main planner throughout the entire year. And it was really good for what I needed in that year, but I think my style has just changed a lot, and I'm finding that bound books in particular, I'm just not feeling super productive in them. I think there's a pressure that I find in a bound book that I just don't get in my ring bound organizers for things to be perfect or kind of a work of art or super aesthetic. And on a more functional side, I struggle to find information. I do my best to tab spreads with Midori index clips. I guess is that upside down for you? No, we're good. I'm not used to doing the front facing camera, but I reorganized my tabs in my 2024 weeks so that I could try and find things a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, I'm still having to flip through like 4 to 6 tabs. And in fact, it just looks a little bit crazy up top, and then I still have some on the bottom as well. And I feel like in the Hobonichi Weeks, I survive, but I don't necessarily thrive when it comes to actually accomplishing things, knocking through my goals, and getting things done. So that being said, I do think that a Hobonichi Weeks will appear in 2025. I have one, I've pen tested it. It's a notebook I go to when I feel emotionally overwhelmed, and we're buying a home next year. We're gonna be moving into that home, and I'm gonna be traveling a ton for work. So overwhelm is 100% going to show up in 2025. But I think right now I have gone through and attempted to set up my weeks for next year, and I'm just not feeling it. And I feel like if I force the setup now, because I do like to start them in December, it's just not gonna stick for next year. So I think I've decided So I think where I'm at is I'm going to put a pin in my 2025 Hobonichi Weeks Mega, and maybe I'll set it up in December for January start, or I'll just save it till January and see how I feel, or maybe I don't feel like using the weeks until March. So that being said, I never really intended on being 100% faithful to the Hobonichi Weeks. I would rather focus on being consistent in my journal for next year, because that, I think this year was my lesson learned. I did a lot of backfilling into this Hobonichi cousin. I started it in August and I've got June through current date in here, and this has been a labor of love, and I'm so glad that I've gone through the effort of it. I still haven't done anything prior to June, so we'll see. I don't think I'm gonna get the first 5 months backfilled by the end of the year, but who knows, maybe I'll have some time over Thanksgiving and I'll feel like journaling and backfilling and things like that. But consolidating memory keeping across all of my notebooks back into this, I think, was sort of the hard lesson I needed to fuel my consistency for next year. So next year, as I mentioned, my only like real commitment is going to be the common planner. Now that being said, I haven't even opened it. I don't have it in hand. So if it's something that arrives tomorrow and I'm like, no, then I'll probably go back to the Hobonichi cousin, but I do think I want an A5. So I've got like 10 years of A5 notebooks on my shelf as kind of like my bound book memory keeper. So we'll see. I do think it'll be good. And I went with the tweed cover, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. A5 full year vertical, because I've been liking the vertical weeklies again out of nowhere this year. So what have I been planning in? Over the last week, I've actually been reaching for my pocket rings. And as I've been kind of reflecting on the last few months, I've been really consistent with my pocket rings and the Hobonichi cousin. It's been kind of my dream duo. I went 3 months straight and a little bit more, because I moved back into rings, I think it was the end of June of this year. So July, August, September, I was really faithful to just being in pocket rings and using the Hobonichi cousin. And I had several work trips and the pocket rings actually worked out super well for me. I still think I'm gonna keep my work planning in a Hobonichi Weeks. We're gonna keep that outsourced, because I've been noticing that I use my planner to procrastinate a little bit. And just having the work planner out has helped me focus during work hours. So that's been kind of nice, and just a little bit of a change that I think I needed for right now. Who knows, next year if I'm still using rings, I'll probably pop work pages back in when I'm not traveling so much. But for now, I'm still traveling a ton, so it's nice to keep them separate. But I kind of shied away from the pocket rings, mostly because I felt like I need to be really prepared with ring planning. I have to do a certain amount of pre-planning. I have to print, cut, and punch in advance, especially because I'm traveling on the weekdays, but then I'm also traveling on weekends for personal travel, especially now that we're kind of hitting the holidays. So there's a certain amount of preparation that I have to do, and that doesn't take all that long. Honestly, I did this over the weekend. I print, cut, and punch 3 months worth of dailies, weeklies, and then I just flipped up the 2025 dated monthly for next year, so I've got that ready to go. That will be listed in the shop this year. I want to dabble with some dated inserts, so I have a pretty big queue of things that I'm trying to design in what little free time I can find. So but for sure there will be a 2025 dated monthly across my usual size spread. So my link for my shop is down below, and I will be doing a Black Friday sale. I don't know when the code will start, but there will be one, and I'll announce that over on Instagram, and then probably in the community page here on YouTube as well. So keep a lookout for that. And hopefully the dated inserts will be up by then. But I picked this back up, and it's just, maybe I have a lot of muscle memory with it. Ring-bound planning is kind of my origin story. It's how I got into the planner community back in college. So 2013, I think, is when I got my first Filofax. I'm aging myself here, but I started with a Filofax Personal in an original in retro yellow. I still have it. And I think maybe it's because it was my first like planner. It's a system I always go back to, and I think maybe I just have really deep neural pathways on like being productive in that system because of that. I don't know, I'm just speculating at this point. But I picked back up my pocket rings. This is the Filofax Ranger, by the way. This one is unfortunately discontinued, but I did get it off of eBay earlier this year. I think it was January actually. So we're coming up on the 1 year mark with this planner, which I'm really excited about. But I have been finding that I do really well, particularly with my habit tracking, which is really how I break down the bulk of my goals in this planner, because I don't forget about things that I need to track because all of my trackers are grouped together in one section. So it helps me sort of with that object permanence of reminding myself like, oh, I didn't do that yesterday, but I'm tracking that. So I better prioritize doing that for tomorrow. And then the other thing I'm really enjoying about rings right now is the daily pages, because I find with the Hobonichi Weeks or bullet journaling in general, I will need to set up my daily page. I'm a daily logger at heart, and I still do that in my ring bound system. So I'll set up my daily the night before, but there comes like a certain point in the current day where I need to decide that I'm done with my current daily and then go ahead and set up for the next one. So let me just show you, for example, in the Hobonichi Weeks, they're kind of all stacked together. So what that really means is that basically at some point I have to decide like I am done for the day, adding to my current daily log, which means that I can't do any micro journaling underneath it, or I'm not going to do any more memory keeping or any other tasks that kind of come up. They're going to be on tomorrow's daily if I need to write them down, even though I might need to accomplish them today. And it just sort of glitches my brain a little bit. It's not the end of the world, obviously. I've been bullet journaling for multiple years and I've made it work, but I don't have to make that kind of decision with my ring bound planners because I do a full day per page. So I am currently on the 14th. This is my current daily log and what I am working on, but I have thoughts rolling around in my brain for things that I need to do tomorrow. So I was just able to go ahead and set up tomorrow's daily, and it's there. And now I can continue to add to my current page. If I want more space for journaling today, I can add in an extra sheet of paper. I've got like my 2x3 photo freebies, which I use a ton to add in pictures or micro journaling, or I can just slap in another notes page if I want to write or have a lot more to do or more tasks to kind of add to it. And I really, really enjoy that flexibility. And as I mentioned, I have a hard time committing to a planner because for me, the hobby aspect of planning is figuring out how to organize information, how to group things, how to be more productive, experiment with a new layout to see if there's a better way of doing something. And rings allows me to do that really effortlessly in a way that I'm still getting things done because I'm very organized. I'm not hunting for information. I'm not forgetting about my goals because it's all there and it's organized in a way that works for my brain. And it allows me to switch things up. So if I decide, you know, I'm really struggling keeping up with content planning, let me whip up some spreads or create a dedicated section for that to try and get that back under control. And then once I'm in a rhythm, it's not something that I necessarily have to feel obligated to keep up with through the rest of the year. I can take that section out or those pages out, rearrange my planner depending on what life throws at me. And that is something that I really love. Pocket in general, I think is kind of my happy place. I always love a tiny planner, something that fits in all my bags. I want to do like a what's in my bag video, but I'm kind of boring and I don't keep a lot in my purse. So I think what I want to do is sort of like a purse collection and then show you what size planners fit in them. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that. It's been something I've been kind of kicking around, but what's in my bag usually isn't all that interesting, so I don't know. Anyway, let me know. But the moral of the story is that I think Pocket is kind of my sweet spot because it's easy to travel with. It's easy to write in because I find like a lot of the page is secure by the rings compared to like a personal size. There's a lot of page that isn't in the rings and I find they just kind of shift around a little bit. And with the smaller planner and typically the smaller ring size, it sort of helps me focus on what do I actually need to track, because sometimes I add a lot of things to my planner that don't necessarily add value. So once I kind of hit capacity on my ring space, I can take a step back and do a little self-audit on, is this helping me or is this not? So anyway, so I have been back in my pocket rings for the past week and I'm really liking it. I have gone ahead and pre-printed things for December and January, and then I've got some spare dailies because at this point I don't think I'm leaving my horizontal daily. I might switch up my weeklies, might switch up my habit trackers, but this is what's pulling me in right now. And it was like, honestly, this week using my pocket rings, I have gotten so much more done over the last week than I have over the last like 2 or 3 in my weeks. And that's not to say like my planner increases my productivity necessarily, but I think just having something that really clicks with how my brain operates helps me be a little bit more efficient with my planning, so then I have more free time for other things or kind of knocking out the tasks and things like that. So there's also a little bit of like fresh setup motivation I find with the planner, which is maybe something I rely on a little bit too much. But yeah, I don't really know exactly where we were going with this chat. I just thought I would kind of pop on and talk a little bit about 2025 and then just kind of introduce that I do still plan to planner hop in 2025. I'm really hoping to keep it just to these two. This is a stand-in. Obviously I have one for 2025. I will eventually set this up, but I don't think I'm gonna set it up in November for a December start. At best, I might set it up in December for a January start, but otherwise I think we'll just kind of save this for when I feel like I need something. And once I set it up, I will do a video on it so you guys can see. But for right now, and I think for the next month or 2, I'm probably gonna stick it out in pocket rings. And then I'm really hoping for 2025 that the common planner commitment is nice and solid. And then I'll just kind of switch between these two as needed. And then we'll kind of go from there. I don't want to introduce more than the 2 planners because I think next year is going to be a little bit crazy, but I know that if I try and only do 1 planner for the entire year, I'm gonna just be bored, and this is my main hobby, so if it's not fun, then it's not functional. We'll just put it that way. So I need a little bit of spice of life for me, and I'm hoping that it's these 2 things. All right, so thanks for listening to me ramble. Regardless of whether I set up my weeks now or later, I'm still gonna do a migration prep video because the spreads that I would put in my 2025 Hobonichi weeks, I would also need to set up in my pocket rings planner for 2025. So it's gonna be more of a holistic view between the 2. And I find that I'm more likely to add something to my rings just because it's easier to add and take away if I don't need it than I would in my Hobonichi weeks. So I think that this will be good to kind of get a nice all-encompassing list. We'll probably go a little bit overboard with trackers in my ring setup, and then I'll pare back the ones that just aren't using kind of throughout the weeks in 2025. When I decide something doesn't work, I'll just pop it out, not a big issue. So next video will be migration prep. So we'll kind of flip through my 2024 planners and we'll curate the list of spreads that I want to set up next year. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Hope you don't mind a little face-to-face chat. Let me know what you think. I think this is my first face-to-face video, so please be kind to me in the comments. I'm just a girl. But anyway, I hope you're having a great week and I'll see you soon.